Great. Here we go. Hey, Hayley, how you going? Good to see you again.
Great. Yeah, you too, Annette. Thank you for inviting me in.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for joining us for Courageous Conversations.
Yes, I'm really excited about today.
Oh my, we've had quite a lead up into it, haven't we? A couple of conversations along the way. Life, career has happened, a lot of it.
Yes, lots of things going on in my world, and I'm really excited to just be able to share life. I guess life, it's life, isn't it? That's what we're going to be talking about is how do we get through life, and what are we, what's the main things that are driving us in that? Yeah.
And what's next, because that's what we thought we'd talk about today.
Yes.
The fast pace of life today and the uncertainty that we live in our careers and so forth, that we thought we'd talk about the evolving stages of our career, which also affects our life, and what happens behind the scenes, and under the hood, so to speak, when we're trying to make those decisions on where to from here. So before I do that, I'd like to let everyone know a little bit more about Hayley, who Hayley is. So Hayley Solich, welcome, is a multi-award-winning community engagement specialist who is passionate in sharing wisdom around the creative abundance in life. And one of the things that Hayley and I were talking about earlier is Hayley has lived a huge life as a business owner and a specializing as, in the strategic planning, very much a visionary, loves helping people and communities grow in all areas of life. Yes. And I said to Hayley, I said earlier on, describe one sentence, and I'd like to read this out to you. One sentence that would describe Hayley, and then I'll segue into more about your background, Hayley. So Hayley is a chameleon. I'm a chameleon in life, okay, who is flexible and is able to find the opportunities no matter what's going on in life, especially when it's tied to disappointments and upsets. So tell us more about that and your background, Hayley. I thought that's a nice segue to step into more about you.
Yeah, thanks, Annette. So how I became a chameleon was I grew up in a country town in New South Wales, and by the age of 14, I had my first job. By the age of 16, I had 3 jobs, plus doing school full-time, plus playing sports. So I was a very busy person. And as an adult now, I know that was a response to trauma in my life. And so I guess I was a bit of a workaholic, but I had a lot of joy in my life. I just had this huge curiosity about all things. And I was doing performing arts, and I just wanted to be out and tasting the world, I guess. And so I guess because I was moving between, I was working at Foss's and at the local takeaway food shop, and I was doing the babysitting jobs as well for others, plus sort of helping in the family with supporting my mum in her work. It just gave me a work attitude. I guess that's the bottom line. Was there was this huge desire to taste life in all of its many aspects, and also from an early age, I had this strong social justice core in me. I think I was, if I could have been a freedom fighter of some sort back then, I would have been. So I kind of had these two things: a strong work ethic on one side, and this social justice core to myself. So I set off from the country to the city, and when I got to the city, I started working administrative types of roles. I missed some opportunities. I wanted to be a teacher and study, and I applied to go to Penrith University. They met me and said, well, you're not, at that stage I was still in the country, you're not living in Sydney, you'd need to relocate. We're not sure how you go with that. Come move up and then reapply, is what they said to me. And a month after I moved up, my mother actually got posted to Penrith in her job. And it was so my life, if I could sum up my life, it's been near misses like that.
Okay.
When I went to college and doing performing arts, I was in the year that they didn't do the tour, they didn't do the final concerts like I'd witnessed, the years before. So I feel like, in some ways I've just kind of missed opportunities a lot in my life. But in other ways, one door closes and another door opens,
Yeah.
is my strong philosophy on life. And
Yeah.
so every job role I've gone into, I have what I would call suck the marrow out of the opportunity to learn new skills, to explore, to understand how things fit together and work. And that's just a natural curiosity that I have.
Wow.
So I've kind of gone from that performing arts, touring schools, doing youth work, having an amazing life in the time of my life, to the reality of you got to earn money.
Yes, yes, yes.
And when the professional door shut, I had to go and find another door. And so that's when I came across into administration and into government administration, and was trucking along really well there, rising through the ranks, having these amazing opportunities. I did some youth work with WA Police, so I was hanging off cliffs and doing youth leadership type of roles. And then they moved me across into community policing, so I was heading up a $500,000 grant program and traveling around the state and talking to people and getting them excited about local crime. And then I got married.
Okay.
And we go, okay. So I went on maternity leave because I got pregnant very quickly, 3 months in, on maternity leave, thinking, oh, I'm having a baby, I'm going back.
Yes, yes.
And then had the baby, got pregnant again.
Ah.
And again thought having the baby, going back. And then child number 2 couldn't eat food until she was about 16 months. So I was forced to breastfeed her solely because she had a swallowing problem.
Yeah.
So by the time I got her weaned, I was pregnant with child number 3. And so at that stage I went, well, I guess I'm not getting back to public service, and I resigned from my position. And sort of said to myself, well, okay, well, now I have to discover what Hayley Solich looks like inside this mothering role. Pregnant with child number 3. We're in, my husband was an apprentice when I married him. He had only just qualified. So we were, we'd build a house together. We were in that really financially tight space with these children that just kept coming. And so I had to develop ways to look at for opportunities where I was, is probably the best way to put it. And nice. I thought I'd do network marketing actually, and got all set up to go with that. And then my husband had an accident and did his back in. And so it's kind of like go forward. Yes. Something traumatic happens. Yes. And then I have to reinvent myself. Yes. And then go forward. And then husband recovered. And I, being a good, 1960s trained woman, yes. goes, oh, husband, let him have his life and I'll take a back seat. And so that was kind of how our life went for quite a while. I get an opportunity, I'd excel at what I'm doing, and then something would happen in the family and I'd have to take a back seat. And so I have redeveloped myself many times over in life. Like well, it's just the survival. As women, we are geared, I think, to look at our environment and go, what do I need to do for this family to survive? I think that's just natural instinct in us. Yes. And I went through postnatal depression after I had 4 children in 7 years, and I lost one in that time. And so I went through a period of postnatal depression, and coming out of that, I just went, you know what, I'm getting my life back. Yes. I am not going to sit at home and be the stay-at-home mum that I had accepted as a role, because I was unhappy. Yes, yes. I was, it was not connecting with who I was on the inside. It wasn't meeting the need of the woman who knew she needed to be in business. I have known that my whole life, and so for me, I made a choice coming out of that postnatal depression. I was going to go back to work, and I reinvented myself as a employment consultant, and I excelled in that. And then you know what I did, Annette? Yes. I sabotaged myself and got my husband a great job. Okay.
Okay.
And then went, oh, family's going to fall apart. Kids can't cope because we only see them for a few hours every night, you know.
Right.
And so I stepped back again
Oh,
and went, you know, you work and I'll find other ways. So then I went and did TAFE lecturing, and I did magazines and all of the things that I listed and sent to you around running a business around a family in trauma. And that's quite complex, because I had four children, 3 of them in different schools at one stage, and dealing with the effects of trauma in their life from some things that had happened. We were victims of crime, and it was very difficult because it knocked us over as a family. We had a parent die with brain cancer, and that journey that we went through with them. It was just like this rolling series of challenges that we had to come through. So in that time, it became about looking at the environment and saying, where is the opportunity in what I see? And how can I take what I know, and how can I stretch myself to become what I need to become, to be able to create an opportunity so that I can make some resource for their family, but also so me as a person doesn't get lost.
Yes.
Because that was part of the depression, was I felt like I'd lost who I was. And so I had to reclaim me to be able to survive that, you know, all of this stuff. And so you go through, I guess it's the bouncing forward process. You know, not bouncing back from your trauma. You've got to bounce forward and take, you know, scoop up all that wisdom that's sitting in all of those things that you've seen and been through, and bring it forward. And I guess that's kind of leads into the last few years, you know, the last 5 or 6 years, where I went into mental health space, and I went, well, you know, I've been a carer of people with mental health, supporting my family members. How can I take my life experience and make it valuable?
Wow.
And so I went into a consulting role with WA Health, and then that led me to the National Mental Health Consumer and Carer Forum, which led me to executive level committee work and advocacy work, and then kind of the rest is a bit of a roll from there. It built a whole skill set that I had never even imagined I would have the opportunity. It took the girl that had no money, who couldn't have a holiday, to places and hotels and spaces that I never thought I would get to go to. You know, so reconnected me with my Eastern States family, who I'd lost connection with because I couldn't see them because we had no money to go anywhere. You know, so I think the chameleon part of that, and I'll let you have a say,
Go for it.
Is around recognizing your environment and looking at your environment and knowing yourself, knowing who you are, what you can do, what you can do, or what you know that you maybe haven't thought about in that way. You know, as a parent, you know, I was a scheduler and a supplier interactor and a bill payer. So I was accounts payable, I was accounts receivable, I was a manager and a supervisor. You know, there's so many transferable skills that you have as a person that runs a family. So recognizing those things and then looking and saying, well, where can I put that out into the, you know, this world that surrounds me and be rewarded for it.
Yes.
All good things come to an end.
And and this, you've just, that was amazing. Like that you so many people out there can relate to what you just spoke about.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing, right? The depth of it, because there's so many life skills in there that you talked about that's transferable. And even in the face of depression, even in the face of postnatal depression, whatever the case might be, right? And we talk about a lot today about thriving, you know, when you're surviving as such. And I just want to throw those words out for a moment, because it puts a lot of pressure on people.
Yes.
What I heard you say was you became resourceful. You became resilient. You became reinventive in a way that you did not have to craft a reinvention. You looked inwards to
Yes.
what's happening now for me, that I have already my strengths, abilities, awareness of the environment. You were literally forced to grow. Yeah. And that's where the stretch comes from. People call it survive. I like to call it stretch.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, the key here is to stretch without breaking. The breaking point is where we think we have to move ahead forward. I shouldn't be here. This isn't, and I'm not talking about not healing, because that's different again, because there has to be a point where you go, bloody hell, this is not fair. I'm not going to swear here. Why is this happening to me again, right? Been there, done that. I know where you're coming from, okay? But this is where we can go into wisdom. And this is something that I really want to point this out right now, that for everybody tuning in today, I was just reflecting on Hayley's website, and there was a statement that jumped out, which captivates everything that you've just spoken about. And I'd just like to share it. When we harvest the wisdom from lived experience, we flourish.
Yes.
Now I've got goosebumps from head to toe. Cool. Right?
Yes.
So I continue to say to my clients, you have a resourceful well of wisdom. You have a resourceful well of wisdom. We all do. And that comes from when you said beautifully, when you captivate consciousness around the environment of what's happening now. Feel what you need to feel. We need to heal. Feeling is healing. I had to give myself permission on all of that. Feeling is healing. It's okay to feel, because enlightenment comes at the same time as that, which is wisdom. Yeah?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and I think we need not to be afraid to sit in a place of uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
Uncomfortableness with ourselves and with our situation.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to be determined not to stay there, because all growth is uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
But in terms of what I mean by that is you can be uncomfortable because you're poor, and you can be uncomfortable because you're in a bad relationship, and you can be uncomfortable because you're being limited where you are in your employment situation. They're uncomfortable places you don't want to sit.
Yes.
But we do need to be willing to be uncomfortable to grow to where we need to go to, and to take some risks to get there. There is a saying that I've heard, which is that we can grow to the level of our incompetence, in our careers. And I think I've gone to the level of my incompetence thousands of times, because I've been willing to go, well, I may not know that 100%, but I'm willing to learn it. I'll give you an example. I worked in a performing arts company. Everyone in that company had skills.
Yeah.
And so we used to go into schools. There was about six to eight performers, and we used to set up a set and sound system and flats and everything. And at one point I was working with a husband and wife team. And so I knew how to do everything, how to do the sound, how to set up everything. She chose to just stay in her lane, which was performer. And I said to her one day, I said, can you help us set the sound up? Because we were running late and her husband had been delayed in joining us that day. And she goes, no, Dad, I don't do that. My husband does that. And I felt such a sadness inside me in that moment, because from a practical perspective, that left a huge gap in our team. And for her, it meant that she had no skill.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, I understand specialization and mastering things, but I'm so pragmatic about life and doing things. I've always gone, if there's an ability to learn it, I want to learn it, because then that gives me the freedom to choose or not to choose to use it. You can't choose not to use something you don't know how to do.
Yes.
And so for me, it has always been about this natural curiosity about life, and how that helped me. I think when I was in depression, and I was sitting with myself. They gave me medication. I took medication for 3 days, and 3 days was enough for me.
Yes.
3 days knocked me out of the game. I sat in a chair. I could see my husband was in despair and looking after these 4 children under 5, and things needed to happen. And I just sat in a chair because that's what the medication did for me. But in that time, I sat with myself and I said, I had this conversation clear as day. The conversation went like, who's responsible for you, Hayley? Your mum's dead.
Yeah.
So you can't ask her to make your choices for you. Your partner's a bit incapacitated at the moment. You can't expect him to make choices for you. Who is there to blame for where you are and how you are? And then I realized, actually, I have to take responsibility.
Yes. Yes.
For my own joy in life, for my own pathway, for everything that happens, I have to take responsibility. And taking responsibility meant not surrendering who I was to nothingness, because that's what it felt like for me.
Yes.
I'm not trying to devalue parenting at all. I loved my kids and I loved the time with my kids, but it didn't feel like, it felt like each child took a part of me. I could be a performer up until the 3rd child. Then it got too hard. You know, so it felt like every child came and they stripped away another part of who I was, to the point where I didn't recognize the person that I was. And so for me, it was about, I had to reclaim me. And that was my way of surviving as well, because otherwise I just really would have gone under with the postnatal depression. And as soon as I decided that, and I went to work in an industry where I was helping others find their pathways.
Yes.
And the joy that I felt in helping others find their pathway.
You're just glowing now. You're just lit up.
It changed me on the inside. I have a photo, and I remember very clearly a lady came to me in a break. I was doing training on how to get jobs, and in particular how to write a letter and reverse market yourself. And this lady came to me in the break. She's crying, and she just felt like she was inadequate and couldn't do the task. She'd been 9 years unemployed. And I just encouraged her to have a go. I said, try, follow the formula, give it a go, see what happens. Well, 2 weeks later, she came back. She got the job that she wanted at the business that she wanted to work at, working the hours she wanted. And she was over the moon excited. And I have this photo of us standing, near the whiteboard, and my grin is bigger than her grin, because when for me, there is no greater moment than the joy of seeing somebody take something and make something of it. Whether it's gifting somebody out in the community, a gift of kindness, and their absolute pleasure they get from receiving. Yes. And the pleasure you get from giving, there's nothing better than that exchange, human exchange.
Totally. Absolutely.
Nothing better than that human.
It's that pure engagement that you're talking about, that really your childhood and the work ethics that you had, it was really, that was all a part of the catalyst of you being an engagement specialist in what you do so naturally, engaging with human connection.
Yeah, I love that. And that's what Women Can was all about. Women Can, for those that don't know, is Women Can International is an association I started in 2009. And the reason I started that was I separated from my partner for a time. And it was my girlfriends helped me to get out of a bad situation. We were living at our in-laws' place in a granny flat, and I was ready to go to a refuge because it was a toxic environment. And my girlfriends went, "You're going under again. We need to get you out." And so I moved. I drove this big 5-ton truck from Canning Vale to Kinross, one side of the city to the other side of the city. Never driven anything as big as that before, but I had a HR license, so I gave it a go. And I did it. And, packing that truck, I did a whole storage unit full of furniture with just myself and one person. Wow. It was a huge effort. But starting Women Can, it was all about connection. And they ran a story in the paper, and we had 55 women call me in a month to say they wanted to be part of it, because it was a mentoring and mentee time of connection for women. And I
Yes.
just remember women coming to the door and greeting them
Mm.
and finding out a little bit about them and connecting with someone with a similar passion or,
Yes.
life, and seeing the magic, that's the best, it's absolute
It is, isn't it?
best. Yeah. The best feeling is seeing those connections and pathways, it's just the opportunities coming together.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. That's me.
Yes.
That's my
So
heartbeat.
you've had so many different pathways in your life that you've been able to turn around and captivate for you. And you use the word reinvent. It's that whole capitalize on where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so
Absolutely.
I'm wondering, there will be people out there watching and listening in to your story today. If there were three, if they're sort of sitting there going, where do I start? How do I know? How do I pull this out of me? What would you recommend that they do in the way of their evolving pathway?
So first thing I would recommend is get someone who's got a bit of nous, who can sit down with you, or someone you don't know, even if you can go and hire someone to do this, sit down with you and map out your skills, abilities, knowledge, experience,
Yes.
and the transferable skills, and just get it all onto paper.
Mm-hmm.
When you get onto, now I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
When you put on paper information like that about yourself, something happens inside you. It's like a validating process. Totally. And especially if you invite other people to participate in that process. And I'll give you an example, Annette. I ran a young women's mentoring program called MYI Project. And one of the activities that we do in that project is to get the room to speak out loud what they know, see, like about the person. And then we put that down onto a piece of paper, so it's got an image of the person in the middle, and we put all of those words around that person, and then they have to read that out to the group. So it might say beautiful, it might say clever, it might say, these are characteristics rather than skills, but it might, and we get them to read it out. I am clever. I am good at doing this, whatever that might be. And you see a shift in the person. You do. Because validation is such a huge part. Why do we have universities? Because we want to validate somebody's expertise and knowledge and experience. And that piece of paper makes them feel more confident to go and do a job. It's the same with life. There's validation that we can get in life from our friends, from our co-workers, from our supervisors. It's about, so step number one is get it onto paper. Know who you are. Get feedback about who you are. And be reflective. So it doesn't just have to be your positives. Get feedback about those blind spots that you have about yourself. We all got them. We've all got things we need to work on. And don't be afraid to see them and to own those weaknesses that you have. I can tell you now, numbers is not my jam. I can do numbers, but numbers is not my jam. I'm the first one to say I can work with figures, but I have to work hard at it. It's not my jam. I'd much rather work with people than with numbers. It's just not my jam. But doing business consulting, I have to do numbers. There's budgets as all part of running businesses. So it's knowing who you are, because then you can get into flow for yourself. Then you can go, hey, project team, or hey, work team, I'm really good at doing this part. What are you good at? And they go, oh, I'm really good at doing this part. And then you go, well, how about I do this part, you do that part. And then so you've got a very cohesive whole with the group. You don't have to own everything. I thought you did. I thought I had to be jack of all, but I've learned, find your flow, find what you are really good at, what makes your heart sing, what gives you energy. And that's where you focus. And I was saying to Annette, I was looking at some opportunities, and a great trick my friend taught me is to put the opportunities on pieces of paper, put them face down, mix them up, put them face down so you don't know which opportunity is which, and then close your eyes and allow your body to tell you where to step. and then
Yes.
step forward into whatever that is, and you'll find when you pick up that piece of paper that's where it'll go off in you. You'll know that that's the step forward for you.
Yeah.
So that's worked for me many times, that process. So yeah, first thing is about validation and seeking some feedback and being reflective about feedback, not fearing feedback that it initially may feel negative.
Yes, yes.
But actually going, all right, I'm going to hold that. You don't have to take it in. It's like someone throwing you a ball. You can catch it out here and then decide if you want to bring it into yourself.
Exactly.
Exactly. But catch the ball and have a good look at it and reflect on it. And then, then you can go, okay, that part of me doesn't need to be. I don't need to be doing those tasks.
Yes.
I can let it go, or
yeah,
I need to strengthen those parts. There's a process called Realize to Strength that I've been working on, and Realize to Strength looks at your realized strengths, the things that you're currently doing, your unrealized strengths, the things that you could be doing that would be giving you energy, your weaknesses and your learned abilities, your learned strengths. And often our learned strengths are worn out and we need to come back here and look at our natural unrealized potential. So so when you're looking at those areas that are not giving you the best result, then you have to work out, are they an unrealized strength that needs to be invested in, or are they, something that you have learned that you need to let go of?
Oh, so true.
Yeah, and there's plenty of those, I'm sure, Annette.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So what else would you recommend?
And then it's looking at your environment. It's looking around you and saying, okay, if what are the opportunities? What is it going to take for me to connect with those opportunities? I'll give you an example of that. So the opportunities might be a work opportunity. The opportunity might be self-employment. It might be volunteering to form connections and to learn new skills. It might be recognizing you need time. You need time to heal. You need time to recover, to re-strengthen, to regroup, and to nurture yourself. Because if you've been through some trauma, sometimes you need a bit of time to give to yourself. And I know for me, when I was going through all of that, I had some amazing clients. I'm running a business. I'm in trauma and dealing with the fallout of trauma with the family members.
Yes.
But I had some amazing clients that I was able to exchange services with. So I was getting hot stone massages and facials and, and all of that soul nurturing, meditation sessions.
Very needed. Very needed.
Very, very needed, And so it's also looking around your world and saying, well, where can I exchange what I can do with what someone else can do if you haven't got resource, because if you got money, you can go and buy anything. But if you don't have resource, it's finding cooperative ways to be with others. Yes. And to connect with those that are around you and draw on what's in your circle.
Having that support around you as well is, is paramount. That's one way of doing it
And that's a really important thing, Annette. When I separated from my husband, it was about building a network. Having a network of support and friends. I think I read something many years ago. It was advice from an old woman to younger women, and it was $5,000 in your bank account, which is your escape money.
Right.
A circle of girlfriends.
Yes.
Because they're your escape companions.
Yes. Yes.
They were the two things that were essential criteria for every woman. Don't let go of your girlfriends and keep some money in the bank. So if you need to pick up and go, you can go pick up and go. And so it was with those thinking that I created Women Can to create a network of women around me that were strong women that wanted to cheer me on and that I could cheer on. Because that keeps you, that keeps you in a good and healthy and encouraged space.
Yes. Beautiful.
And on that, just not being afraid to let go of people.
Yes. Yes, yeah, letting go of the old. Sometimes we're hanging on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
sometimes some people come into your life for different reasons, you know, and some people come in as like a piece of sandpaper to polish you up, shine you up, get rid of all the rough edges, and you know what, that you know those sorts of people, and they're helpful in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people that come in like a wrecking ball that just want to knock you over and do their own thing, and they're not actually there to polish you up and make you a better person. They're just wrecking balls, and you've got to recognize the wrecking balls in your life and say no to them and let them go.
They're the big learning lessons.
Yeah, I've had to do that many times over in my life, is to go, you know, I can love you but not be with you in my world. And I'm not talking about my husband and partner, he's still there and not a wrecking ball. Yes. But other people have come in, try to control my life and dictate to me who I need to be and how I need to be. And I had some person come into my life and come into my house and tell me I had to throw my towels out and buy new towels because they didn't match, you know. And shame my kids in, you know, there's boundaries that we have to put around our life. Definitely. But coming back to this whole chameleon workplace growth, I think there's three things that are very helpful. The first is the mapping. The second is not being afraid to get feedback and to sit with that feedback and to grow from it. And the third too is invest in yourself. Yes. Yes. You know, the day I wrote the sign "I Matter" and stuck it on the fridge at home and took back my journey in life was the best day of my life. And then deciding from there that I was going to give myself time to grow as a human being. Yes. To explore, to not just, and money is not just the only investment. It is time. It's nourishing the soul. You know, I love theatre. I love music. I made a decision. I'm going out, whether no one's coming or not. I'm going to have a life, and I'm going to do what Hayley Solich needs to do to be really happy in life. Wonderful. Whatever that looks like, you know. So it is about going, well, if that means I've got to do a degree, I'm not doing it. Just telling you. But if it did mean I had to do a degree, I would do it. I'm just not doing it at this age of life.
Hayley Solich, a resourceful well of wisdom there. And I just want to, I'm sure there's a lot of people going, wow.
Yeah.
How can I engage with you? So in what way can, you know, can people contact you and engage with you?
Sure. If people want to have a conversation with me, you can always go via the website and send me an email, and we can talk about it. Currently, I'm open to job offers because my last job, I was made redundant. They had, due to financial pressures, not performance, I was told. Yes. So I am available for job offers, and I'm looking at consulting work currently, and so in my business, Golden Pen Communications, I am taking on clients currently in projects. Beautiful. And so, you know, if you wanted to have a conversation, just a 15-minute, this is me conversation, and you wanted me to sort of point you in a direction, I'm happy to have that conversation with anybody at any time. And you can get me via my website. If you wanted to go a bit deeper and do a business consulting type of deal, you can also contact me via the website, and we can have a chat what that might look like. I've done many hours at the Dome, half days with clients, mapping out their life and where they're going to be. And I'm quite happy to go back that way if that's what, you know, what it is at this time. Yeah.
Well, Hayley, thank you so much for sharing and sharing your pathway, the evolving stages and phases of your life and your
Thank you, Annette.
Career path. And if anyone wants to contact Hayley, then I will let you know the details. Just look below, and we can. I'll share the website as well. Yeah. And if anyone would like to have a conversation with me even further about what I do in regard to offering you to step into your intuitiveness and making sure that your strengths and gifts and talents are coming from your heart and soul and putting that out into the world, your natural abilities out into the world in a way of your life, your career and your business, then I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about that as well. So thank you for joining. Yes.
I was going to say in closing too, Annette,
yes,
just a validation of your skills in that area. Annette and I had a phone call last week when I got the news about my redundancy, and I was probably a bit devastated at that point because it was quite a shock, unexpected.
Yes.
And Annette just sort of helped me to ground myself, to remember who I am, and to center into who I want to be in this moment, and only allow myself to head in the direction of that. And that was extremely helpful to me. And I'm very, very grateful to you for that advice that you gave me. It really did help me to get centered. So I highly recommend you to others.
Thank you. And that's very normal, isn't it? When we have a hit out of the blue, we're all humans.
Yes.
And, that's why it's important to have that support and that someone who can be, I like to call myself a partner, really, a partner in life.
Yeah.
I like to hold the mirror up so that people can remember who they truly are. And that, because that's been my life journey to continue. And that's why I have a mirror on my table to remind myself, this is who you are. Don't look out. Don't compare. We all do that, right? So
it's so funny you should say.
Become our own best friend to remind ourselves who we are, right, at the different stages. And we're human. And it's okay to fall over and have a cry every now and again.
Absolutely. And you just reminded me, I was going to do a book many years ago, and the cover was going to be a mirror, an actual mirror with Change Starts Here.
Oh, nice.
It's the title of the book. Yeah. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So just holding the mirror up, it's such a great reflection in it.
It is always just to breathe and go within and listen in. That's that ground. When we stay grounded and breathe and just get out in the fresh air and just trust divine timing, and then take the next step, the next step, the next step, trust your intuition, it will all come into play. And then at the same time, beautiful, beautiful wisdom, words of wisdom from Hayley. Writing down.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Writing down to stay connected with your natural strengths and abilities, because it's trying to tell you how to put it out there into the world and the ways that you can do that. We already have our own answers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I have on my wall, Annette, it's got me in the middle, and it's got who am I? And I've listed off what my strengths are and what I can bring to the workplace. And I do that every time I go into a new work experience place. Who am I? What can I bring here? To remind myself, because people will put you in boxes. They will try to minimize you to suit their own agendas. Yes. But you have to remember who you are. And you helped me so well, Annette. So thank you for that. That was a gift.
Thank you. And it wasn't this a timely conversation. It just serendipity.
Because we've been going to do it for a while. So
I know. It was just perfect timing. So thank you so much, Hayley. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Courageous Conversations. And I look forward to connecting again soon. Thank you. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. I'll just stay on the call there. Great. Is that...